Do you know Rahi?
Hi, this is Rekaya from Belmung, and these are my reactions to the Final Fantasy XIV Digital Fanfest 2021. Let's talk about the new jobs. First up being Reaper. It's a melee DPS, as we expected, and it's a Scythe Wielder, as the teaser trailer alluded to 3 months ago. What we weren't expecting was that Reaper would be as flashy as it is. As we saw in the job reveal, basically Reaper uses a lot of slashing. You can see like the scythe glows blue here in this footage, and they have a lot of very accentuated, flashy moves with their scythe. We don't actually know how these moves connect, whether the job uses a 1-2-3 combo or it uses a proc system. We don't know how the job itself works, but what we do know is it's aesthetic, and we also know that it has kind of a familiar of sorts that you can see being summoned in the footage. I'm not entirely sold that I'll play Reaper, just because I'm more of a ranged main, and I don't see anything taking me from Machinist. Next up is new zones, and of course we got several new zones announced during the keynote last Friday. One of the big reveals in the reveal trailer was the fact that Old Charleon will be our new large city. So Thavnir is our smaller city, and Old Charleon will be presumably our large connecting hub. So we'll get our tombstones in Razadhan, and we'll presumably, in the middle of the MSQ, will come to Old Charleon. And in terms of aesthetics, it looks very similar to New Charleon that you find in Heavensward, which is to be expected given that New Charleon was a colony built on Aldernard. Our second Charleon-inspired zone is Labyrinthos, and it was stated that this zone exists somewhere underground. If you remember back to the teases from the beginning of the year in the New Year letter, there was a news post on Lodestone that detailed kind of like a letter that was brought to Yoshida from his self-insert minstrel, I believe. And that post teases that there go to the sky and also underground. And so this area is underground, and you can see kind of lattice work in the sky, but also it's very spread out in terms of its architecture and design. There are fields for agriculture and farming, and there's a false sun in the sky. They didn't say during the presentation where this zone took place. It's apparently a story spoiler and is a big secret. My own personal theory is that this zone is actually inside the moon. And so when they talked about going underground, they weren't talking about going into the core of Heidelin, they were talking about going to inside of the moon. We got our first look at brand new dungeons during Fanfest 2021, and they showed a quick kind of like sizzle trailer that showed several different dungeon locations in quick succession. So we got one that kind of looked rather mocky, really reminded me of the aesthetic of the Void Ark series, with the glowing purple tubes and the kind of fleshy material on the ground. We don't have any context as to what this is for, but we do see tubes hooking up, and it does kind of look very similar to the kind of organic matter that is in the Fiery Tower in Garlemald. So take that as a grain of salt, but that's my thoughts on this. Also, why does it have teeth? It's really creepy. The next one that they showed was also shown in concept art, and it's a train station of sorts. It looks to be Magitech in design. It looks very much like a Garlean train, possibly a supply train, something that would provide supplies that the Empire needs. This is probably a way station of sorts. We do see a control panel and an elevator similar to those in Praetorium, which are Garlean in design. The aesthetic and layout of the dungeon look very Garlean, including glowing blue lights, Magitech turbines. Alright, so after the train station kind of looking dungeon, the trailer itself goes to what at first I thought was a PvP map, because it looked very open with fields, but this is, of course, a dungeon, not a PvP map, although it could be also teased at the new PvP mode, who knows. We do see, potted plants growing in this place, and we see lots of research stations, and also those glowing Garlean tubes, very similar to Memoria Misery. As we go through the dungeon, we're kind of ascending up a staircase and through a locked door, and then it ends. So I'm not sure what that dungeon has in store for us in terms of story content, but we will see when Endwalker comes out. Speaking of which, whether you're looking forward to teases at new dungeons, the reveal of the new melee job, finding out where the story was going to go, watching the full CG trailer, probably one thing that everyone in common had in terms of expectations was knowing when the expansion would release. Of course, the first teaser trailer ended with the date of fall 2021, and the full CGI trailer had the same release date attached to it, so we did have to wait over an hour into the presentation to find out what the release date was. They actually did the sales pitch for the collector's edition, which, by the way, took about 35 minutes, before giving us the release date. The release date was one of the last pieces of information that we were given. It turns out that fall 2021 actually means November. The retail release date is November 23rd, which here in North America is very much not fall. Yoshida and Michael Christopher Koji Fox did explain that when they came up with the term fall 2021 in Japan, where they are located, it doesn't start snowing until November, so they chose fall as the date because in late fall, where they are, there still is not a lot of snow. They were aware that those of us in North America might perceive the date that they were going to give as an error. What does a late November release mean, other than it is definitely in the winter and definitely for those of us in North America when there's snow on the ground? It means that for 6 months, effectively, after this coming Tuesday's patch, there will be no new high-end content in the game for an entire 6 months, half a year. The longest drought that we've had during the 5.x series is last year due to COVID and due to the team transitioning from in-office work to remote work. We had a 6-month gap between the release of 5.2, which was Eden's Verse and whatnot, in February of 2020, and then the release of 5.3, which was originally scheduled for June of that year and got pushed back by 2 months, so that came out in August. What does 6 months without major content mean for us as players? It does give us time to level alt jobs, and I will be leveling Astrologian, and Samurai is going to be my melee job, so that I can make sure to get all the role quests done in Endwalker. It also means if you want to try Savage and you haven't tried the current tier, you will be able to go in with the Savage tier unlocked as of 5.57. It also means that you'll have time to craft things like food, potions if you want them for story progression. The 6-month break is also an excellent time to try and finish your relic. The Boja relic itself has a number of steps. The first step is very easy, it's just 1,000 tomestones, but it does escalate from there. I currently, even on my main, which is Machinist, am on the Delaborm Regine step, which requires doing 15 of those. So you have 6 months to get Relic, which of course, the Relic weapon going into an expansion is best in slot and is better than the Edenmorn weapon from E12S. You also have time to maybe even try another role. If you're a DPS main like myself and don't do a lot of tanking or don't do a lot of healing, it's an excellent time to even get into dungeons and try your hand at a role that you haven't done maybe outside of story or outside of role quests. It's also a great time to try and hunt down achievements. Have you completed Palace of the Dead? Have you completed Heaven on High? Have you tried soloing Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High? Do you have your achievement mounts? If you're a tank main, do you have your loyalty title or your lealty title? the loyalty titles are apparently, according to player statistics, rarer than Ultimate. Speaking of Ultimate, I'm taking the opportunity with the 6-month gap to try Ultimate. I've been very fortunate to have a group of 7 other people that we all get along and it just clicks. We've been doing Uwu, which is the Weapons Refrain Ultimate. It's the Stormblood released in 4.3 Ultimate of the Ultimate weapon, and we've been working on it just casually, 8 hours a week, for 3 months now, and we are only 4 minutes away from finishing the fight, which is something I thought I would never say. I've had a goal of doing an Ultimate for 2 years now, and I've made various attempts at trying UCOB and T, and have not got past a 3rd phase, so I've never seen the end of a Ultimate fight, nowhere near the end, and now we are only 4 minutes away from clearing the fight. So really, if there's something in this game that you want to do that you haven't done yet, whether it's Eureka, whether it's Heaven on High, whether it's Ultimate, whether it's trying Rating, whether it's completing the current Extreme, whether it's going through New Game Plus and brushing up on all of the lore and all of the things that you might have missed, given that we are now in year 8 since A Realm Reborn, a 6-month gap is the perfect time to do it. And if you're feeling burnt out, if you're a raider like I am, or you've been keeping up with story patches and just noticing that some of your friends aren't around, a 6-month gap is the perfect time to take a break and play another game. I mean, the sun is shining outside, things still kind of suck in the world, but there's always, the chance to pick up, Animal Crossing, or even Skyward Sword is getting a remaster in like 2 months. So there's so much to do with such a time. So I hope that folks don't take me saying, oh, there's no content for 6 months as a complaint, because there's so much to do in this game. And that wraps up my thoughts on Final Fantasy XIV Digital Fanfest 2021. Of course, I'm just one player of millions, and so I want to know your thoughts. What did you enjoy about the announcements at Fanfest? What didn't you enjoy? Did it meet your expectations? Did it have the same level of excitement as the in-person events do? Have you been to an in-person event? I want to know in the comments. So that wraps up everything that I have to say, and edited videos like this do take a bit of time, but I am going to probably try and do more of content like this over the summer. So thanks for watching. You can follow me on social media if you like. I have other videos. Some of them are just gameplay clips. Others are edited videos for crafting tips. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.